UFC Fight Night Belal, remember the name Muhammad, is taking on Gabriel Bonfim this Saturday, and I'm going to be giving you guys a full card breakdown. Before we get into it, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at PhilAlwaysWins to be the first to know about my weekly UFC betting tips. To kick off the night, we have a women's strawweight fight between Souza taking on Ariane Carnelossi, and this is going to be a very interesting fight because these two have actually fought before, where Ariane won via KO. Now that fight did happen a really long time ago, back in 2019, and Souza has really improved over these years, and honestly, currently she looks like the better fighter. I'm favoring Souza to get the win because she looks like the cleaner striker. If Souza can stay composed, keep Carnelossi at range, and not get dragged into a messy brawl, she should be able to land the cleaner shots over 3 rounds. On the other hand, what makes Carnelossi so dangerous is her aggression. She's also very physically strong, and she throws with a lot of power. Her whole game plan in this fight is to come forward, make the fight ugly, and force exchanges in the pocket. The problem is she does get hit a lot while doing so. Her striking defense is only 44%, and she absorbs 4.6 significant strikes per minute, so she gives a lot of opportunity for her opponents to land cleanly. Carnelossi's best chance to win this fight is to pressure Souza hard, close the distance, and make Souza fight a very uncomfortable fight. I think she can make it very competitive early in the fight, but ultimately I think that Souza is going to land the cleaner and more accurate strikes, and she's going to win a unanimous decision win. Next up, we have another women's flyweight fight between Duben and Chaves, where I think that Chaves is going to get the win. They always say to bet on a women's fight to go the distance, but honestly, I think that this fight is almost guaranteed to end by knockout. Chaves is coming off a very close split decision win in an absolute war of a fight against Montenegro, and she'll be making her debut this Saturday. She's a sharp kickboxer, and she definitely has the speed advantage coming into this fight, and Chaves will be looking to use her speed to land first and overwhelm Duben with long combination. She'll want to finish this fight as soon as possible because Duben has a lot of power in her hands, and either woman could end the fight at any given moment. Duben is more of a one-shot knockout fighter, with 5 of her 6 wins coming by way of knockout. But Chaves is a better striker in general because she utilizes her speed and kicks, while Duben solely relies on her boxing to land that one big shot. So I think that Duben is going to be a little bit reckless and overly aggressive and try to land something big early in the fight. I reckon Chaves' speed will allow her to land that one counter shot that'll be the start of the end for Duben, and she's going to win via knockout in round 2. Next up, we have a featherweight fight between Joanderson Brito taking on Jordan Leavitt, where I think that Leavitt is going to get the win. This is a tricky fight to judge because Brito looks like a real prospect, even having a win over Diego Lopez, but he's going to need to find a knockout as soon as possible. Jordan Leavitt is a very sticky grappler, and his whole game plan coming into this fight is to take Brito down and control him for 3 rounds on the ground, while also trying to find a submission. Now the risky part is that Leavitt has no striking capabilities, and I don't usually like backing one-dimensional fighters because if he can't take Brito down, then he's guaranteed to lose this fight. Brito is a pretty well-rounded fighter, but unlike Leavitt, he doesn't really shine in one particular area. He's a dangerous striker, and he does have the capability to wrestle, but the one problem is his takedown defense. Despite being pretty athletic, Brito gets taken down and controlled in almost all of his fights. Not too long ago, he got absolutely dominated on the ground in his fight against Pat Sabatini, and I reckon we'll see a similar fight play out. I think that Leavitt's going to be able to take and keep this fight on the ground from the starting bell, and I reckon he's going to win a unanimous decision win. Next up, we have a women's bantamweight fight between Priscilla and Chelsea Chandler, where I think that Priscilla is going to get the win. Both of these fighters are currently on a 2-fight losing streak, and they're both pretty bad at fighting. Betting wise, I would just avoid this fight, but I'm simply backing Priscilla because of her experience advantage. She's a power puncher with 4 knockout wins in the UFC, and she loves to be the one that's in the driver's seat and putting on the pressure. We've seen Chelsea look very uncomfortable against aggressive fighters, and she'll be looking to keep this fight in the clinch because that's the only area where she fights well. Chelsea's chin is also pretty questionable, and she's been either knocked out or hurt pretty badly in almost all of her fights. Actually, both of these fighters are pretty chinny, but the difference is that Priscilla has decent power in her shots, while Chelsea doesn't. This could either be a boring clinch fight in favor of Chelsea or a knockout win early for Priscilla, and I think Priscilla's experience and constant pressure is going to be enough to find a knockout in round 2. Next up, we have a flyweight bout between Edgar Chairez taking on Bruno Silva, where I think that Edgar is going to get the win. This is a tricky matchup because Bruno Silva is the better fighter in this matchup, but Chairez has the reach and power advantage. Silva isn't the best wrestler, but he has the wrestling advantage in this fight, and he'll need to threaten some takedowns in order to be able to close the distance and land some shots. Silva actually looked pretty good in his last fight against Charles Johnson, where honestly, I thought he won that fight. He was able to close the distance and pressure Johnson against the cage for the whole fight, and he fought surprisingly well in the pocket. This is going to be a very similar fight because Edgar likes to use his reach to lunge in, land 2 to 3 strikes, then pop back out, so Silva needs to be constantly pressuring him the entire fight. But Edgar is a measured striker, and I realize that he has a very good fight IQ. He's fast and creative with his striking, and I always see him making adjustments throughout the fight. The only downside is that sometimes he doesn't bite down and step on the gas enough, and in a fight where Bruno may have control time, I could see him losing a very close split decision. But judges nowadays really favor damage over control time, and I think Edgar is going to have the bigger moments and do more damage throughout the fight, and win a split decision win. Next up, we have a bantamweight fight between Yannis taking on Mcghee, where I think that Mcghee is going to get the win. To keep it simple, this is going to be a pure striking fight, and Mcghee is by far the better stand-up fighter. Mcgee's striking is one of the biggest reasons he's such a dangerous fighter. He's explosive and quick, but what makes him stand out is the creativity in his combinations. He blends in spinning attacks with knees, and I like how he switches up the rhythm by exploding forward at unpredictable times, which makes him a difficult opponent to read. Mcghee is coming off his first UFC loss to Peter Yan, but we'll let it slide given that Yan is the current bantamweight champion. This is a major downgrade in competition for him, and I think that there's no way that Yannis can win this fight. Yannis is solely a striker, and he tends to struggle with getting taken down and controlled. I think Mcghee is going to be the one that's initiating the striking exchanges, then he's going to mix in some takedowns to avoid taking damage. But even if Mcghee decides to not wrestle, he'll still be a better striker and he'll beat Yannis at his own game. I reckon Mcgee's going to overwhelm Yannis with his unpredictable striking, and he'll find a knockout in round 2. Next up, we have a catchweight fight between Alessandro Costa taking on Schnell, where Costa's taking this fight on short notice, but I still think that he's going to win. Now, despite both of these fighters' bases being jiu-jitsu, usually their fights stay standing, so this fight is going to be an entertaining stand-up fight, but the biggest difference for me is that Costa is the more dangerous fighter right now. Costa is the younger and more powerful striker, and his game plan should be to pressure Schnell, take away his reach advantage, and force him into uncomfortable exchanges. Now, Schnell does have pretty slick boxing, and he's got the quicker hands in this fight, but his main problem is his durability. He's 7-8 in the UFC, so he has more losses than wins, and all of his losses have come by way of finish. Schnell does have the reach advantage, and he is the longer fighter, but he never really benefits from his reach advantage because he prefers to fight in the pocket and trade shots. Now, against a more durable and more powerful striker like Costa, Schnell would be giving Costa the exact type of fight that he wants to fight, and I think Costa is going to find the knockout in round 2. And just like that, we are on the main card of the evening where we have a light heavyweight bout between Baraniewski taking on Junior Tafa, and I think that Iwo is going to get the win. Both of these fighters are known for their tremendous power, and Iwo usually likes to fight a bar fight. He just comes out swinging, and although it's very entertaining, it's not the best strategy against another power puncher like Tafa. Tafa has a very fast and powerful 1-2 down the middle, and he could catch Iwo's chin if he's being overly aggressive and too reckless. Tafa also has more UFC experience, and we know that he can fight a 3-round fight. All of Iwo's fights have ended in round 1, so we don't know how well he'll do if this fight does go the distance, and how well his cardio is going to be. Tafa also has a decent chin, so I do think that he'll be able to survive round 1, while we've seen Iwo been hurt before in his fight against Ibo Aslan, so that could be a major problem. But I'm favoring Iwo because if you watch his older clips, he actually has decent takedown abilities, and he has 2 submission wins in round 1. And if there's one thing that Junior Tafa struggles with, it's against fighters that even have the slightest ability to grapple or wrestle. Iwo may very well decide to stand his ground and brawl, but I'm going to predict that he's going to want to display how diverse his skill set is, and who better to do it against than a dangerous striker who's known for little to no grappling skills, and I think that he'll be able to find a submission win in round 1. Next up, we have a bantamweight fight between Bryce Mitchell and Santiago Luna, where I'm taking Bryce Mitchell to get the win. This is a very tricky fight to judge because Santiago is a dangerous and undefeated prospect who I think has a very bright future in the UFC. Bryce Mitchell is a highly experienced grappler whose only losses have come to ranked opponents like Ilia Topuria, Josh Emmett, and John Silva. His whole game plan is to fight in the clinch, take you down, land some ground and pound, and just tire you out on the ground. And most importantly, he's got the stamina to fight this type of fight at a constant pace for 3 rounds straight. Santiago Luna is a 4-time national wrestling champion for Mexico, but he struggled to take fighters down that are less accomplished than Bryce. And when he does get the takedowns, he's unable to take advantage and keep his opponents grounded. So even if he manages to take Bryce down, I think Bryce will be able to reverse the position. Santiago is most dangerous early in the fight where he has a clear striking advantage. He's the faster and more powerful striker, and I think he only wins this fight if he can find a knockout in round 1. Bryce is pretty chinny too, and all Santiago needs to do is overwhelm Bryce early in the fight, and hopefully he clips him and finds a knockout. But we've seen Santiago slow down after round 1, and the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Bryce. I think he'll be able to knock Bryce down early in the fight, but I don't think he'll be able to finish him off, and I think Bryce will weather the storm, and he'll be able to take over with his grappling in round 2 and round 3, and win a unanimous 29-28 decision. Next up, we have a lightweight bout between Ziam taking on Nolan, where I'm taking Ziam to get the win. This is a fight between two solid prospects who are both on a massive winning streak and are both coming into this fight with so much confidence. Both of these fighters are very well-rounded, but Ziam is just the more well-rounded and experienced fighter. Ziam is a rangy striker who picks his shots from the outside, but he's not limited to just keeping the fight at a distance. He's coming off a very impressive and dominant win against Nazim Sadikov, where he was able to showcase just how good he is at mixing everything up and fighting a real MMA fight. But Nolan is dangerous early in the fight because of how aggressive he is. He's got quick combinations, and he usually aims to overwhelm his opponents early in the fight, and he's also not too bad on the ground. But Nolan tends to slow down, and the longer the fight goes, the more it favors Ziam. Ziam can either keep it long and technical, or he can make it physical by entering the clinch, landing takedowns, and forcing Nolan to work early in the fight. I reckon Ziam will be able to get this fight into the clinch for the majority of the fight, draining Nolan's energy and finding a TKO victory in round 2. Just like that, we are at the co-main event of the evening, where we have a middleweight bout between Brandon Allen taking on Edmund Shabazan, where I think that Allen is going to get the win. Brandon Allen is coming off one of his most impressive wins against Rinner de Ritter, where he showcased levels in his grappling abilities. Allen is an underrated fighter who's sort of a dark horse in the division. His ground game is clearly his biggest weapon, especially when he gets to the back and start hunting submissions, but he's also comfortable fighting a stand-up fight. I like that he doesn't rely completely on his grappling, and that he's confident fighting any type of fight. This is a major downgrade in competition for Allen, because Edmund is strictly a stand-up fighter with decent power that'll only win this fight if he can find the knockout. Given that Allen has only lost to absolute killers like Imavov, Fluffy Hernandez, and Strickland, with all of those fights going the distance, I doubt that Edmund will be the one to be able to knock him out. Edmund has also struggled with getting taken down, and not too long ago, he got submitted by Gerald Meerschaert. I think Allen is going to fight a very smart fight and start mixing in the takedowns in round 1 and try to tire Edmund out. Round 2 will be the same story but different ending, and I reckon that Allen is going to be able to find a submission and finish the fight in round 2. And just like that, we are on the main event of the evening, where we have Belal, remember the name Muhammad, taking on Gabriel Bonfim, and I'm going to predict Belal to get the win. Belal is on a 2-fight losing streak, but he is the significantly more experienced fighter in this fight, and both of his losses have come to high-level UFC fighters in JDM and Ian Gary. I feel like Belal hasn't been using his wrestling lately, and he's been trying to display his striking, but he needs to stop playing around and stick to his strong suit, and I hope he implies his wrestling this time out. Bonfim is a dangerous prospect who's going to be looking to use his reach advantage to fight at range and try to avoid getting taken down. We saw Belal struggle to break the range and close the distance against Ian Gary, and Bonfim is going to try and replicate that. But I don't think that Bonfim has the same fight IQ or skill set as Ian Gary. We haven't seen Bonfim fight a dangerous wrestler, and his defensive wrestling has yet to be tested. Belal is a persistent wrestler who can fight at a high wrestling pace for all 5 rounds, and he's not an easy first test. Bonfim's defensive wrestling does not impress me either, because he struggled to keep Wonderboy grounded even after he picked up an injury in his shin in round 2. I reckon he'll be able to close the distance this time out and mix in the wrestling to win a unanimous decision win. And so that's my full card breakdown for UFC Muhammad versus Bonfim. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram to be the first to know about my weekly UFC betting tips. Peace.